Hello and welcome to Comedian versus Economist. My name's Adam, and today we're actually not joined by my little older brother and real-life economist, Thomas. Unfortunately, Thomas is still cleaning up after ex-tropical cyclone Alfred. He lost power for about a week, and all the food went bad in the fridge and a ton of other things. But luckily managed to avoid any flooding. So I think that's a win. He'll be back next week. So you stuck with me for today, and I didn't want to just give you nothing. That's not what I'm about. I want to give the listeners something to listen to. So I thought I would share with you today the story of TrackMyBrown. TrackMyBrown, as many of you would know, is the Twitter account that I started and basically helped kill off gambling odds being broadcast during live footy games, whether that's the AFL or the NRL. They've finally succumbed to public pressure, and I think I was a large part of that, and stopped showing those ads stopped showing the odds at least during live broadcasts, which is a win. We don't want any gambling ads at all. I'm 100% against gambling ads, and we don't want any ads at all. But especially we don't want the odds. So it's a small step in the right direction, but there's more to do. But anyway, for today, I wrote an article on LinkedIn, which you can go and read. The link will be in the show notes. But then I thought to myself, who likes reading? Nobody likes reading. So I thought, how could I communicate? How could I get this out there in another way? Being a podcaster, I thought I could just talk about the article and read it, but that's pretty boring, especially in the world of AI. So I turned to my AI helpers, and I actually took the article and I gave it to Google's Notebook LM service, which is, to be honest, pretty incredible. So I gave them the article, and Google churned away at it. It ran the AI magic over it, and it produced a really listenable podcast. In fact, I'm really quite amazed at the quality of just how polished it sounds, regardless of the content. It really triggered my nerd passion. So anyway, I thought I'd share that with you today. It's only 10 minutes long. Full transparency, though, it is AI. It's not scripted, though. I didn't write a script and give it to some AI voices to read. This is the Google Notebook LM's interpretation and extraction of information from the account that it's done a job at turning into a podcast. So it waffles a bit at times. It lacks a bit of commitment. They steered away from a full ban, which I'm a bit disappointed in. But it does tell a good story. It's really listenable. As I say, it's only 10 minutes long, so I think you'll enjoy it. And the best part of all is this story involves charts. So it's totally on brand for CVE. So look, I hope you'll enjoy it. Thomas will be back next week. Love to hear what you think. You can send us a message, cve@equitymates.com, or hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, at CVE Podcast. I'll also share this on YouTube at CVE Podcast. But for now, sit back, relax, and let my dear friends AI Voice 1 and AI Voice 2 take you on a journey.
All right, so get this. Today we're diving into the world of Australian rules football.
AFL.
Yeah, you heard that right, AFL. But this isn't just about sports. Oh, no.
Yeah.
This is about gambling media influence and how one guy used data to fight back against some potentially shady practices.
Yeah.
We've got this fascinating article about a Twitter account that took on the gambling industry. And let me tell you, the results are wild.
What's interesting here is that the AFL, for those unfamiliar, is like a mix of rugby, soccer, and just pure Aussie grit.
Yeah.
It's a huge deal down under
I can imagine.
A family-oriented sport.
Yeah.
So you can imagine the raised eyebrows when gambling ads became increasingly common during broadcasts.
Exactly. So our source is this guy.
Yeah.
A comedic podcaster who also happens to be a bit of a data whiz.
Mm-hmm.
He noticed how often a sports bet ambassador was giving gambling tips during AFL broadcasts and thought, hang on, I'm going to put these tips to the test.
Okay, so he created a Twitter account called @TrackMyBrown and decided to track the success of these tips.
Right.
He bet a hypothetical $20, the average bet size in Australia, apparently, on each game.
Interesting.
Based on the ambassador's recommendations.
Okay.
And he posted the results week after week for the entire world to see.
Wow. talk about putting your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
Well, not actual money, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So was this ambassador a secret betting guru? Did his tips lead to a fortune?
Not quite.
Oh,
In fact, out of the 93 games tracked during the 23 season, the ambassador's tips only resulted in 15 wins.
oh, wow.
We're talking about a hypothetical loss of $716. That's a lot of hypothetical shrimp on the Barbie.
Ouch. That's got to hurt, even if it's not real money.
Yeah.
So this guy's just tracking bets on Twitter.
Right.
And that's it?
No, that's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
This data started making waves.
All right.
Major media outlets like the Australian Financial Review and The Guardian.
Huge publications.
Yeah.
Wow.
Picked up the story AFL criticized for promoting series of bets that have 85% loss rate for gamblers, screamed one headline in The Guardian.
Oh, wow.
Suddenly, everyone's talking about this random Twitter account that's holding a gambling giant accountable.
This @TrackMyBrown guy.
Yeah.
He really hit a nerve, didn't he?
He did.
I'm seeing these headlines, and it's clear he tapped into something big.
Yeah.
People were already uneasy about the amount of gambling advertising in their beloved sport.
Right.
And now they have hard data to back up their concerns. It's brilliant.
This approach was so effective because it exposed the reality behind the slick marketing.
Yeah.
These expert tips, the ones promising big wins, well, the data showed they were more likely to lead to losses, especially for the average person just trying their luck.
Okay, so we've got data, media attention, public outcry. What happens next? Does the ambassador try a new strategy?
Well,
Does Sportsbet try to sweep this whole thing under the rug? I'm on the edge of my seat here.
what happened next was fascinating. The ambassador did indeed change his strategy for the 2024 season. Remember, all of this is playing out in real time. The media coverage, the public scrutiny, it seems like it had an effect.
Okay, I gotta know. Did he finally admit defeat and stop giving tips altogether?
Not exactly. Instead, he shifted his focus away from what are called same-game multis.
In-game multis.
Which are bets where you have to correctly predict multiple outcomes within a single game.
Hold on. Break that down for me. What exactly is a same-game multi? It sounds complicated.
They are a bit more complex. Imagine this. You bet that a certain team will win, that a specific player will score a certain number of goals, and that the total score will be over a certain number. All of those predictions have to be correct for you to win the bet.
So it sounds like these same-game multis are enticing because they promise bigger payouts if you hit all the predictions, right?
Exactly. They dangle the possibility of winning big, which is very attractive to people. But the catch is that the odds of actually hitting all those predictions are astronomically low. It's like the bookie is saying, sure, you could win a lot, but statistically, you probably won't.
So it's a way to make it seem like you have a better chance of winning big, but the reality is the odds are stacked against you. I'm starting to see why people were upset.
It's very clever marketing, and it seems like at TrackMyBrown's expose, combined with the growing criticism of same-game multis, might have been the push the ambassador needed to change his tactics.
So if he wasn't recommending same-game multis anymore, what was he suggesting people bet on?
He shifted to simpler best bets, which are single bets on a specific outcome. Think of it like betting on which team will win a match or which player will score the first goal, less risky and definitely less profitable for the bookmaker.
It sounds like they were trying to tone down the controversy a bit, make the tips seem less predatory. But did this change in strategy actually lead to more wins? Did the ambassador suddenly find his inner betting guru?
Sadly, no. Even with the switch to these less risky bets, the hypothetical losses continued. In fact, at TrackMyBrown's data, shows that by the end of the 2024 season, the total hypothetical loss reached a whopping negative $873.
Wow. So even with a change in strategy, the results are still pretty dismal. It really highlights a crucial point, doesn't it? Even with seemingly safer bets, the house still wins in the long run. That's the nature of the game, and it's why this kind of advertising, especially surrounding a family-friendly sport, is so problematic.
Absolutely. And what's truly remarkable is that this individual, armed with data and a Twitter account, was able to make a real impact. His efforts sparked a national conversation, led to media scrutiny, and ultimately contributed to a significant change in AFL broadcasts.
Yeah, what kind of change are we talking about? Did the AFL finally crack down on gambling ads altogether?
Well, not completely, but for the 2025 season, live odds were removed from AFL broadcasts. It was a direct result of the mounting public pressure and the awareness raised by initiatives like at TrackMyBrown's data-driven approach. It's a tangible example of how one person's actions can have a ripple effect and drive real change.
That's incredible. It just goes to show that even in the face of powerful industries like gambling, individuals can make a difference. And it all started with someone tracking data and sharing it with the world.
It really highlights the power of data in driving awareness and holding those in power accountable, and it reminds us of the importance of critical thinking. We can't just blindly accept everything we're told, especially when it comes to things like gambling, where the stakes are so high, both literally and figuratively.
It makes you wonder, though, is removing live odds from broadcasts really enough? It feels like a surface level change when the problem runs much deeper.
That's an important question. While this is a positive step, it's crucial to acknowledge that the issue of gambling advertising and its potential impact, especially on vulnerable individuals, remains a serious concern.
So where do we go from here? What else can be done to address this complex issue? This feels like the start of a much bigger conversation. So we've seen how this one guy, armed with nothing but data and a Twitter account, managed to spark a national conversation and force a major change in how gambling is presented during AFL broadcasts. It's inspiring, sure, but is removing live odds really enough? I'm left wondering what happens next in this fight against gambling advertising.
It's a step in the right direction, absolutely, but you're right to question if it's enough. Think of it this way. Removing live odds is like treating a symptom. It addresses a visible part of the problem, but the underlying condition, the pervasive nature of gambling advertising and its potential for harm, that's still there.
Okay, I see what you mean. So if this is just the first step, what needs to happen next? What would a more comprehensive solution look like?
Well, I think we need to start by acknowledging the full scope of the problem. It's not just about people losing money, it's about the normalization of gambling as a recreational activity, especially for young people. It's about the potential for addiction and the devastating impact that can have on individuals, families, communities.
It's interesting you mentioned young people because I was just thinking about how many of these ads are so flashy and exciting, almost like they're designed to appeal to a younger audience. It's pretty worrying when you think about it.
Exactly, and that's why we need a much more robust approach to regulating gambling advertising, one that prioritizes the well-being of individuals over the profits of the gambling industry.
So what would that look like in practice? What kind of regulations are we talking about?
Well, for starters, we could implement stricter limitations on the content and placement of these ads. Imagine no more ads during broadcasts of family-friendly sporting events, maybe even a complete ban on certain types of advertising, especially those that target young people or glamorize gambling, making it seem like a risk-free, glamorous activity.
That makes sense. But wouldn't the gambling industry push back against that? They're a powerful force, and I imagine they wouldn't go down without a fight.
Of course they'd resist. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. But there's a growing movement pushing for change. Organizations like the Alliance for Gambling Reform are advocating for stricter regulations, and the public is becoming more aware of the harms associated with gambling and its advertising. The tide is turning.
It is encouraging to see people speaking out and demanding better protections. This whole story, this deep dive we've taken together, it really highlights the power of individual action. One person with the right data and a platform can spark a movement and force those in power to listen.
Absolutely. And it reminds us that we all have a role to play in shaping a more responsible and ethical media landscape, whether it's supporting organizations like the Alliance for Gambling Reform, sharing information with our networks, or simply being more critical of the messages we're bombarded with every day. We can all contribute to a world where well-being is prioritized over profits.
Well said. So, as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of AFL gambling ads and one guy's quest to expose the truth, I think the takeaway here is this: don't underestimate your own power to make a difference. If something feels wrong, if you see a problem, don't be afraid to speak up, to ask questions, to demand better. And remember, data can be a powerful tool for change. So, keep diving deep, keep questioning everything. And who knows, maybe you'll be the next at Track My Brown, sparking a movement and creating a better future for us all.
So there you have it. What did you think? What did you think about the story? What did you think about Google's job at turning a written article into a conversational podcast? I hope you enjoyed it. As I say, regardless of content, I'm still blown away that AI can produce something that's so polished, I should say. But there is an important message in there. We need to get rid of gambling ads. I'm really passionate about that. I'm 100% committed to a full ban. I don't think there's any half measure that's going to cut it. We ban smoking ads. We can do the same for gambling ads. I think we can get them off the TV and away from our kids. I'll link the original article in the show notes. You can, of course, follow TrackMyBrown on Twitter at TrackMyBrown. and Facebook and Instagram. And finally, look, there's a serious side to this. If the article has, or this show has raised any issues for you, then help is available. You can get free and confidential support. You can call 1-800-858-858 or visit gamblinghelpline.org.au. I'd really encourage you to do that if this has stirred anything up for you. But thank you so much for listening. As I say, Thomas will be back next week. We'll have a full CVE full of more charts, full of, I don't know, probably inflation data or interest rates or something. Look forward to talking to you again next time on CVE. Until then, it is bye for now.
Hey kids, you can't bet, but now you can build your bankroll. The Bettermites have landed at SpoofBet. Start saving with a SpoofBet Bettermites account today, and we'll match any deposits up to $18 in bonus bets for you to use when you turn 18. Don't be a Nigel no friends. Start a bet with Playdates group to multi the friends, multi the savings, multi the fun. Multi! Open a Bettermite savings account today, only at SpoofBet.
We make gambling fun and easy until you lose your house. Get addicted early with a Bettermite account at SpoofBet.
Sick of gambling ads? Search End Gambling Ads and join the fight to get them away from our kids.